You're listening to the CWBN Network Show, a show that empowers visionaries to walk in their God given gifts, plus receive empowerment, inspiration, resources, and tips from your host, Victoria Sheffield, founder of Christian Women's Business Network. Miss Jenkins?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now at the moment I can hear you clearly, so I
Okay,
don't.
great.
I have no clue what that is, but we just pray that the enemy will take his hands off of this line, right? Right.
Yes,
And so
amen.
now I'm gonna tell you what I did hear. I did hear that you say, and I'm telling you that hurt me to hear that you was in a situation with your parents. So I have a quick question. Okay, was the father your biological father?
He was not. He was my stepfather. I didn't find out who my biological father was until I was about 15 years old. I thought some other man was my father because my grandmother didn't like him. My mother got pregnant at 15. She had me at 16. And so my grandma told her not to tell. You don't tell. So because my mom was 16 years old, she didn't tell me. So I didn't know who my biological father was until I was 15 years old.
Wow, 15 years old. And so I remember you were saying at the age of 7 that you went to school, and I think you said, if I remember correctly, that you went to school and was it counselors that noticed that you had a lot of emotional issues?
I was taken to a professional counselor, and they told me that I was homicidal and suicidal.
Jesus.
So I had to have tons of therapy at 7 years old.
My God, my God. And a lot of people, for some strange reason, don't seem to feel as if, okay, the inappropriate of touching of a 7-year-old would take a 7-year-old mind that way. But my God, as we can see and as you know from experience, this can be very traumatic for even a very small child. So, wow, that is truly amazing, and I'm sure that the enemy does not want this call and this interview to go forth, but we're going to move right on, by the grace of God. And again, I thank you because I understand that to even be able to talk about something like this takes your mind back to a painful place in your life, But I've also heard, speaking with other people, that once you get to a point where you can talk about it, that the healing process has taken place. So, wow. Okay, so I have something else that I want to ask you. I want to ask you how, I know that at the age of 7, you wanted to pretty much commit suicide, if I should put it so clear like that. But could you just share with me just a little bit on any type of other ways that this affected you?
Oh, absolutely. As I got older, I started looking for love in the sex, in the touch, and so that was never fulfilling. I remember as an adult hearing T.D. Jakes say that you can't scratch a soul itch with a natural tool. It's not long enough. And so I was putting myself in a position to try and scratch an itch of love that I needed with the wrong instrument. So I went relationship to relationship to relationship to relationship. And then I started realizing that there was a common thread in all these relationships. Not only did they not love me, not care about me, but they were abusers, like the people I had encountered, in my youth.
Wow.
So it became a trend of me dating abusers, whether it was physical or emotional. The deepest scars that I gained weren't even physical scars. It was the emotional and the verbal abuse that I had to suffer. Now, I have been physically abused, but I'm telling you, the effects of that verbal and emotional abuse are scars heal. You can get hit and the black and blue will go away, but those words, it penetrates a place that kind of lasts a little longer.
Ooh, yes, ma'am. I could only say that like that because I've been there myself where I have been emotionally abused, and I'm telling you, those scars from that can really be just as traumatic and last a very long time. Now, I want to ask you for myself. I have heard a lot of people, and I have even been there myself. I want to know, why do you feel that sometimes as we go through certain types of abuse in our lives, regardless of what type of abuse it is, why is it the very thing that, we may say to ourselves, once I get out of this, I would never get myself in another situation like that. And so you said that you ended up in relationships where there were abuse. Why do you think that this happens?
It's very it's very simple, really, because you attract what you need. People who have been abused want to be loved. They have a need to be needed, and a lot of times we go out of our way and we become givers. I read a book called Boundaries, and it told me the type of personality that I have, because I feel the need to be needed and I want to be wanted and I want to be useful and helpful. I attract manipulators. Because manipulators, so your personality and your longing is what attracts that thing to you. Because I was attracting people who would manipulate my kindness, who would manipulate the fact, you need to be needed, so I'm going to treat you like I need you until I don't need you anymore.
Wow.
It's a psychological pattern that we create from the abuse.
I see a psychological pattern that we create from the abuse, because after the abuse, we feel a need to be loved. Wow, because that, of course, was not true love. And we really don't know what true love was or is.
Because we weren't taught that.
Wow.
We were taught,
Wow. Because amazingly, before I even asked you that question, because I briefly mentioned that I've been there. I have not been through sexual abuse, but I have been through physical abuse. And one thing that I know about physical abuse and emotional abuse, because I've been there too, is that the abuser can be very, I'm not going to even say can, I'm going to say is very, exactly what you said, manipulating. And I'm going to say manipulating because I thought I was one of the strongest people around. I had seen people abused in my family and said to myself before I even got into the dating scene, that wouldn't be me. But I'm telling you, that demon is manipulating. Oh, my God. Can everything about the person that is not good, they can hide that from you and show you, paint a picture of someone that's supposed to be or should be the sweetest thing in the world. And then once they've gotten into your mind, and then you are at position where now you love him or her, that's when the abuse starts, because I got you now. I got you now. So now that I have your mind and your heart, now I'm going to show you who I really am. This thing is so deep until it isn't funny. It is super deep. Okay,
Absolutely.
This is what I want to know from you, and I'm just thankful for you today. Truly, it was God, because there are many people that I could have interviewed today. That's why I said the enemy did not want this interview to go forth. That's why I said let's just hang up and come back in. But the devil is a liar. Okay? He's a liar. You know.
That's right.
And I plead the blood of Jesus over this call right now. You know, that this call will go forth because people need healing. They need deliverance. There's somebody else out there right now that's contemplating suicide. And they need to know what I'm getting ready to ask you right now, Miss Jenkins. When and how did you finally find the strength to cope?
What I did was, after I learned the cycle of abuse, because we get stuck in abuse because there's a finite cap on our minds of what abuse really is. We think if they're not yelling at us, if they're not cursing at us, or if they're not hitting us at the moment, then it's not abuse. And then when the abuse comes, it's just an episode. But that's not true. There is a cycle of abuse. There's the honeymoon, then there's the walking on eggshells, that season of build up of aggression, and then there is the explosive season, and that is the season where the hitting or the cursing or all of that, and then it goes back around to honeymoon season. Sometimes in the beginning it goes back and forth from honeymoon to the aggression, but then you can get in a real bad situation where you've been in it for years and years, and they don't even care to honeymoon with you anymore because they know you're not going anywhere because they have your heart. So it just goes from walking on eggshells to exploding. From walking on eggshells to they skip the whole 360 of the circle. So God, once I learned that cycle of abuse, I decided, and it was a situation where my most recent bout with abuse, my abuser raped me.
Jesus.
And he choked me. And if you read about it and do the research on it, strangulation, anybody who will abuse you by strangulation is 9 times more likely to kill you eventually.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I was in a situation where I was on a rebound. I was in a really, really bad space. My husband of 11 years walked out on me and my kids. We had a 4-bedroom home with a 2-car garage, backyard, front yard. Like, we were 30 days from closing, and he just walked out on us.
My God.
So when I finally had to give up everything in that home, I lost everything one time. I went to go stay with my mom. My mom lives in the project because that's where we're from. Her house was completely full, and my kids were being exposed to entirely too much there.
Right.
So I ended up getting in this relationship to get my kids out of my mom's home. So I felt like I could deal with whatever it was I had to deal with until I could get on my feet. So that means I suffered the abuse. We were behind closed doors, but I'm sure my children heard him cursing me out. And as a matter of fact, I feel bad that I subjected my children to that, because there was a time that he cussed at my son, and I was like, oh no, we not. Now I can take it, but you're not going to do that to him. And the day that he raped me and choked me was the last straw, because I had left one time before. I moved everything out. He came home. He was furious. And then, over time, that honeymoon phase, and somehow, I don't know, because we love our abusers. That's why we don't leave. A lot of people say, well, why don't you just leave them? Because we love them. We want them to keep loving us. We just want them to stop abusing us. And we don't realize sometimes.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah. So this last time, when he did that to me and I had moved back in and my kids were there, I told my children to pack a bag. I took all of my clothes all my shoes, whatever. I left everything in there. Everything belonged to me. The furniture had been given by my uncle, my children's beds, my books, I left everything. I left with my life, though. And when I left that situation, I declared from that day to this one that I would not subject myself to that, because that isn't what love is. I started going to church and going back to church and learning, like, how to survive as myself, how to let God love me, and how to really heal, because I was still at 33, 32, holding on to what happened to me when I was 7.
Wow.
So I had to learn how to release and how to overcome. And we moved to Charlotte and started going to Elevation Church. And this is where my total healing came. Because I was pastoring before and all of that kind of stuff. But when I came to Elevation, I was able to empty out and create a safe place. Like, the people here, they prayed for me. They love me. They love all my children. And it caused us to grow as a family.
Oh, wow. That's just a blessing to be able to hear. And I was thinking about what you said a few minutes ago. Oftentimes women can go through abuse, but then when their children become a part of it, that right there just makes it that much worse. And, anybody out there that has been abused, they know that if you have children, your children know what's going on with you, even if they are not being abused themselves. So sometimes just the emotional scars from that can really hurt our children. And I know as a mother, I can just see that you felt like, oh, my goodness, I'm going through this. Now I'm subjecting my children through this, even though it really wasn't your fault. So I bet the moment and the day that you realize, you know what, this wasn't my fault that my children went through this, I bet you anything that was like an aha moment. Because there's some women that are in situations, and some men too, and they're in it and they can leave and they won't, and their children are just being hurt for so many years. But there are also the situations whereas people can look and say, why are you staying in this? But sometimes it's very difficult to just pop up and leave a situation like that.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Especially when you're financially dependent.
Right.
Or, like, there's other ways of abuse, and people don't realize this. But if you are married or you are in a relationship, and I'm speaking to the audience right now because sometimes people don't understand. I just went through a domestic violence training because I declared I would be an advocate and I wouldn't watch anybody else go through what I had to go through. But if you are married and you have accounts with your husband or your boyfriend and you don't know how much money is in the account, but you're working, you don't have access to the money, that is a weapon of power and control. And that keeps the person from leaving because I don't know how I'm going to make it without him.
Absolutely. Okay. Hold that thought because you just hit something right there. Okay, what kind of advice would you give a person in that position that says, you know what, I want to leave. I know this is not right, but he or she is the breadwinner?
I would say to find somebody that you trust, that you can talk to. Because there, oftentimes it's difficult for a person to talk to people who they have already talked to so many times. Because they're like, well, last time I talked to you, you went right back. And you went right back. To find somebody who will invest the time. Sometimes police officers get frustrated. They've come to your house with so many domestic violence calls. Like the police officers have started now taking the women to jail if the men.
They sure have. They sure have.
Like, it's in legislation now to change that law, But there is a 1-800 number. It's 24/7, 365 days a year. That number is 1-800-799-7233. Again, that's 1-800-799-7233. You can call that from anywhere, any of the 52, what we got, 52 states now, 53 states? You can call it from anywhere in the U.S. and get help. They will connect you with the nearest domestic violence shelter in your area. And if your situation is beyond dangerous, they will transport you to another domestic violence shelter that is outside of your county.
Wow.
Reach out for help because we don't know how dangerous these situations get and how quickly they escalate.
Well, yes, and we know some have lost their lives. And so, I'm excited. And what I want to know, there were some things I was going to ask you, but seems like to me God just has me going in different directions. And he does that sometimes if we know God. Okay. Now, I know that, if I'm not mistaken, I know that you're a blogger. You mentioned to me that you've written some magazine articles, but you also, if I'm not mistaken, mentioned that you were working on a publication. Now, is this a publication more so that shares your story, or is it something that will share resources for people in this position, or maybe both?
The book that I'm writing now, the title of it is Unfiltered, Hiding is Not Healing. And
my God.
The reason I'm writing this is because it's so fitting in our climate today. Everything is filtered. Even when you go to post something on social media, it gives you several options of how to spruce up your picture or add flowers or add something that's not really there. And it's very, very rare that people put up pictures that are unfiltered. And we're walking around in abusive situations, in financial crisis, in all kinds of situations, and we got these filters on so people can't see what we're really going through, who we really are, and that we really need help.
Come on.
So I'm writing this book like there is a problem. That being filtered in every area of life is a problem. So I'm presenting a solution that we find safe places to take the filter off, to come out of hiding so that we can really heal. Because when we walk around with wounds that don't heal, they become pussy. And that goes from being a generalized infection to now you're septic. And sepsis is a cause of death.
Wow.
And now, pus and infection through our whole system, and then it goes onto our children and to our, it spreads like an epidemic.
It sure does. You just said something else that just sort of hit me, and I'm going to tell you why. I know from situations going on in my family and also my extended family that a lot of times people are wondering why children are acting out, and that really could be another broadcast, right? A lot of times people are wondering why the children are acting out the way that they are. But you know what? A lot of people really just don't know what could be going on in their home. And I'm going to say this, I really wasn't going to put me in this like this at all. But what I want you and anyone that may be listening, there may be some that will even tune into the replay once I post the information on social media. But my mother is a survivor of 20 years of physical abuse and emotional abuse from my father. So I am a living testimony of how difficult this can be, because I was one of the children out of the 4 children that lived this life for so many years. To this day, I don't blame my mother at all. I absolutely don't. I don't. There were so many times when I was growing up and I was like, Mama, we got to go. We got to leave. But my mother dated him since she was 15 years old. They married at 18 once she, got pregnant with me. And their parents, pretty much down in the country, made them get married. So I know what it is to be a child and the emotional scars. And I also know this. With different children, they are affected differently. It affected me one way. It affected my sister another way. My two brothers another way. So this thing can go. This is a conversation that so many different things can come out of it, you know. But the blessed thing that you said something a few minutes ago, and that thing hit me to a point where I really wanted to just rejoice. You said that's where my healing came from, when you started going to a particular church. So I want to ask you a question. And I've already got my answer from you. I already really knew my answer before you said it. But for anybody listening, do you believe that people can be healed from the scars of abuse?
I think that people can be healed from the wounds of abuse.
That's deep.
A wound and a scar are two different things. When Jesus was resurrected from the grave, because I love Jesus, when Jesus was resurrected from the grave, and I think it was Timothy that came to him and wanted to see his hands, he showed him his hands, and what he showed him was not a wound. What he showed him was a scar. And that's what we need to have. We need to come out of hiding so that our wounds can heal and become scars. Because when they become scars, that's when your story gets its
My God.
That's when your story becomes powerful and becomes a ladder for someone else to climb up out of those particular situations. The scars of abuse last a lifetime, but the reason is so that you can have a testimony to help pull somebody else out. If Jesus took away the pain and the scar, you wouldn't have a story to tell.
Thank you, Jesus. Glory,
but
hallelujah.
Those wounds have to be closed up. That is where the infection
Yes. I'm so glad I'm speaking with you today, because I'm telling you that's exactly how it is. Because sometimes people actually think that, okay, yes, we are to forgive and forget, but come on now, even God knows that we cannot block memories out of our mind. Now, to me, those are the scars.
Here's the thing about that. Because Christianity and, different ways of believers have come through and kind of changed the word to cater to certain specifications. We are to forgive. And I don't think we're ever to forget. I was writing the other day, and I don't even know where this particular manner of writing that I was doing came from, but it was from a place of somebody being hurt and sitting in a pile of their own blood. And if they could ever refocus their attention, if you could stop looking down at the blood that you're sitting in and look up to the hills from which come your help, you'll realize that you begin to move away from that place of the pain. But you don't forget, he doesn't take you so far away that you can't look back in the distance and see where you came from. Because if he ever takes you to a place where you forget, you won't need him. You'll no longer need him. He's got to always remind you of where you came from. And that is what gives us our bowels of compassion for somebody who's going through it. You can cry with them because you can empathize. You can feel it. That's why Jesus came in the flesh, so that he could feel the emotions that we feel. So when he prays for us, he doesn't pray from a place that from a pain that he has not felt before. He feels our pain. So we cannot forget, because we got to feel the pain of the brother or the sister who's sitting beside us and saying, I don't know how to get out. And you could say, man, I remember not knowing how to get out.
That's right. There you go. There you go. My God, you remember. That thing hit me one day too. Now as we are kind of briefly talking about forgiving and forgetting, that the day when God showed it to me, we're supposed to forget in the sense that we don't keep bringing this stuff up in the people's faces that actually hurt us. That's how, he means for us to not forget, but I'm like you, we cannot not remember, because the moment someone actually enters our presence and lets us know that they're going through this or they're going through that, that moment, it automatically takes our minds, especially as being spiritual beings and compassionate beings, we automatically say, oh, yeah, I remember that feeling, and then God would tap us on our shoulders and say, okay, this person needs a breakthrough. This person needs to hear something. This person needs hope. And that's when we step in. So, we're not going to go a whole lot longer. I know that there's something that you need to do today. And I'm telling you, this has been such a blessing. Now, the last thing that I'm going to ask you, and we're going to move towards ending, I want you to tell me how you feel God is getting the glory behind everything that you've been through.
Every time, and even this interview right here, this wasn't a planned event on the calendar. It just happened, like God sent it.
It
and
did.
I believe every time my voice goes out to different places, to Atlanta, to Wilmington. I was just on the radio back home last week. I think that every time I get to speak and tell people there is another way. There is a way out of this. And I get to hug people and pray with them and feel the chains breaking. I believe that God gets the glory out of my life every time I wake up in the morning. Hell is mad at me. That's why I'm not surprised about the call being messed up at the beginning, because that usually happens to me. I tell people I always look for the enemy when I'm on a God assignment.
Amen. Me too. Yeah.
So I just feel like every day I wake up, I'm on a mission. I have a goal and a journey. Today is actually my day that I write the blog. And every time I write the blog, every now and again, somebody will inbox me, because I was thinking about giving it up. And somebody said, you know what, I left a domestic violence situation in Texas and moved to North Carolina. I had the strength and courage to do it because of your blog.
Well, keep on doing it. Don't stop. Because there was one particular ministry that I am doing, and every time I thought I was going to give up on it because I was tired, do you know that even if it was just one, I would get a message through social media, and somebody would say something like, oh, my goodness, I just really love, you're really blessed. It never fails. So you know for yourself what it is that you're supposed to be doing. And when you get to a certain point, send me a link to your blog, because I want to subscribe to your blog. I really do. I really do. I just thank you so much. I'm not going to hold you a whole lot longer. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to share your story and to be a guest. I know you have an appointment in just a little bit, and so we are going to move towards ending. And what I usually do is just share before I close out just a little bit of inspiration and encouraging words of my own. So here are those words. Just like my special guest suffered abuse, I've suffered abuse in my life as well. But what I realized is that this was something designed to take me out. It's the thing that depresses you, degrades you, makes a person feel at times less than human, but you are more than a conqueror through Christ Jesus. So press toward the mark, because you can't make it. The enemy knows your assignment and wants to deter it. Rely on the strength from God to help you get through and connect with the right ministry, counselor, and friends that can help you by holding your hands as God delivers you. So I hope that these words help someone along the way. Now, please connect with our special guest and the CWBN International on social media, and go ahead and like our page on Facebook. Okay, now if you're someone in need of advertising, please let us know. Maybe you would like to be considered as being a guest Or maybe you'd like to host your own show. Maybe you'd like to be a guest host. But whatever your need is, please send all inquiries to Sheffield Victoria 39 at gmail.com. And that's SHEFFIELDVICTORIA 39 at gmail.com. I want to thank you all that may have been listening, and again, my special guests. Now, you all have a blessed and prosperous day, and don't forget to forgive those that hurt you. I'm exiting. Goodbye.